At various times in history and in the many countries of the world, left-handedness has been seen as a mark of the devil, a nasty habit, a sign of rebellion, neurosis, criminality, or even gayness. It has also been seen as a trait indicating creativity and musical abilities, with many of the US presidents being left-handed. And between 10 to 12% of the entire world's population is in fact left-handed. For some, being left-handed is an advantage. For example, southpaw boxers make up about 3% of the population in the most peaceful primitive societies, but 27% in the most warlike ones. Researchers believe that in violent societies, left-handers may benefit from their unexpected left hook. Also, women are more likely to be left-handed than men, with 4%. Even though they have no identity as a unity, some scholars believe that left-handed people are the last minority that's unorganized because they have no collective power and no real sense of common identity. That's despite being discriminated along the history from religious institutions, educational and social groups. On average, 12% of the world is left-handed, 87% right-handed, and 1% ambidextrous, meaning that they can write with both hands, left or right. However, the percentage of lefties worldwide is slowly creeping up as being left-handed becomes more socially accepted. That's a weird one. Still, to this day, some countries, in schools, teachers force kids to write with their right hand, not with their natural writing left hand. In the 1860s, a left-handed person was essentially seen as being in a league with the devil. It's estimated that as little as 2% of the population was left-handed, mainly because people didn't say they are left-handed, not to be a pariah, forcing themselves to hide in the shadow. The current 12% varies a lot by country and gender. Still, studies have shown that they are more likely to have allergies. Left-handed people were 11 times more likely to suffer from allergies than right-handed folk, according to a study. The research also found that left-handers were 2.5 times more likely to suffer from autoimmune disorders, for example, rheumatoid arthritis or ulcers. In the same scientific study, it was also discovered that left-handed people were roughly twice as likely to experience migraines when compared to right-handed people. They are also more likely to experience sleep deprivation. Periodic limb movement disorder is a condition when your limbs move involuntarily during sleep. In a 2011 study, assessment of periodic limb movements in right-handed versus left-handed patients, it was found that 69% of right-handed participants had bilateral limb movement compared to a whopping 94% of left-handed patients, meaning that their own body was moving during sleep and woke them up. It's also said that left-handed people use their right side of the brain most, the brain being cross-wired, meaning that the right side controls the left side of the body and vice versa. Hence the well-known saying, only left-handed people are in their right minds. The right-hand side of the brain is thought to coordinate the left side of the body and control tasks to do with arts and creativity. However, a recent 2018 study, unilateral 3D arm movement kinematics are encoded in ipsilateral human cortex at Washington University, has suggested that tasks may be shared more equally than previously thought. It's important to note that the researchers have stated that since this study involved only 4 patients, there's a lot more research to be carried out before we can truly understand the relationship between brain and body. Why aren't there more patients? Because there aren't really many people that like to be probed around in their brain to see how it works. They're also, according to studies, more prone to being an alcoholic. In a 1973 paper by psychologist Paul Bacon, Left-handedness and Alcoholism, noted that a higher than expected number of patients in an alcoholism ward were left-handed. However, a 2011 study by Dr. Kevin Denny denied that previous paper's findings. In the paper, Handedness and Drinking Behavior, looking at 25,000 people from 12 different countries, he found that being a lefty did not result in excessive drinking later in life. What it did suggest was that left-handed people are more prone to drink at moderate levels than a right-handed person. So the common idea that lefties are more likely to be alcoholics might be just a bit of a stretch. Left-handedness had negative connotations from the beginning. Even the word left-handed is bad in some countries. In Germany, for example, left-handed is linkish, which means awkward, clumsy, and maladroit. In Italian, the word is mancino, which is derived from crooked or maimed, and it's also used to mean deceitful or dishonest. In Russian, to be called a left-hander is a term of insult. In Latin, the word for left-handed is sinister, related to the noun sinistrum, and with ab sinister meaning clumsy on both sides. Among the Eskimo, every left-handed person is seen as a potential sorcerer. In Morocco, left-handers are considered to be sga, a word that means either evil or cursed. In the Talmud, the chief of Satans or prince of demons is named Semiel, which is associated with the Hebrew word for left side, Shemol. The angel Michael sits on God's right hand side, while Semiel is on the left side. This attribution for good to the right and bad to the left is seen throughout history and throughout mythology across the world. A study wanted to answer a question that it raised. Are left-handed people smarter? One 2007 study, effect of handedness on intelligence levels of students, shows that lefties are more likely to have higher IQs. However, another study, made in 2010, the relationship between hand performance and general cognitive ability, suggests the exact opposite. To settle the debate, two researchers from the University of Athens in Greece compiled the data from several individual studies in order to collate data from much larger sample size. The results of this research showed that right-handed people are smarter in average, but only marginally so. Assuming that the average left-hander had an IQ of 100, the average right-hander would be at 101.5. So the current belief that there is a difference between left and right-handers is marginal. Is technically true, but practically marginal. Still, an interesting left-handed statistic is that Mensa claims that 20% of its members are lefties, a much higher number that you'd imagine. Still, lefties are more likely to suffer from language problems. A 2009 study from Finland, which looked at problems with language in children, showed that mixed-handed children had a greater likelihood of experiencing language and scholastic issues which persist into adulthood. Likewise, a 1993 study from Norway, Dyslexia, Handedness, and Immune Disorders, which looked at 734 children, found a significant association between dyslexia and left-handedness. In left versus right-handed person, statistics keep fighting each other. According to a 2009 study, Sex Differences in Left-Handedness, a meta-analysis of 144 studies, 20% more men are left-handed. This study compiled the data from 144 individual studies, including a sample size of almost 2 million participants. According to this study, men were way more prone to being left-handed than women. According to a 2008 study, they are better at multitasking. The Illinois Research Consortium showed that left and right-handed people deal with tasks and memory performance in different ways. Experiments showed that when given two tasks to complete simultaneously, Southpaw participants performed better. This is because right-handed people tend to solve problems by breaking them down into parts and analyzing each piece at a time, whereas left-handed people tend to look at the problem as a whole and use pattern matching to try and solve. Still, they live 9 years less than right-handed people. According to a 1980s study, fortunately, you can breathe a sigh of relief if you are left-handed, as this left-handed statistic was later disproved, although it was really widespread on the internet. The study looked at 1,000 deceased people from California and showed that the average age that right-handed subject died was 75, whereas for lefties it was just 66. Another 6 for the mark of the beast, of course. The problem here is that the study assumes that the number of left-handed people remained static over time. Many people born in the early 1900s were forced to write right-handed, and so would not have identified as being left-handed at death. As a result, the findings from this study have been largely discredited. However, there has been some evidence to suggest that left-handed people are more prone to accidents, so you're not quite out of the woods. Keeping with the not quite out theme, a 2000 study showed that left-handed people are 39% more likely to be gay. The study, called Sexual Orientation and Handedness in Men and Women, a meta-analysis, compared the rates of non-right-handedness in close to 7,000 homosexuals and 16,000 heterosexual participants. It was found that homosexual participants had 39% greater odds of being non-right-handed. In keeping with the sexuality theme, a 2013 study found that asexual participants were roughly 2.5 times more likely to be left-handed. There are a lot of benefits in being left-handed. Left-handed people recover faster from strokes. For the majority of the population, the left side of the brain is largely in control of language function. This is the reason why most strokes or brain injuries which occur on the left side will have an adverse effect on language. 95% of right-handed people have left brain dominance when it comes to language control, whereas this drops to 70% for left. This means that after a stroke, lefties are more likely to recover faster their previous language ability. There are left-handed pens and left-handed notebooks. The notebooks that left-handed people hate are the ones with metal rails on the side, because you hate them. And the pens that they love are pens made for left-handed people, which have a special hooked tip to allow lefties to more easily see what they are writing. The design also keeps the fingers further away from the tip, which, when coupled with quick drying ink, means there is less chance of smudging. They also have an advantage in certain sports. Lefties make especially good baseball players, tennis players, swimmers, fencers, and boxers. Almost 40% of the current top tennis players being lefties, and that's with a good reason. Lefties excel in non-team sports games when they face their opponent one-on-one. This is because right-handed players are accustomed to playing against right-handed players, not lefties. And tennis champion Rafael Nadal is actually right-handed, but learned to play lefty to give himself an advantage, your opponent having to adapt on the spot on fighting against a left-handed opponent. There are also some quirks and features. A 2014 study, What Affects Facing Direction in Human Facial Profile Drawing, a meta-analytic inquiry, showed that left-handed people mainly drew characters facing to the right, and right-handed people draw them facing to the left. Try drawing a face to see what happens. Of the 9 most recent presidents in the US, 5 were left-handed, more than half. Joe Biden is left-handed, Donald Trump is left-handed, Barack Obama was left-handed, Bill Clinton, George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, and Gerald Ford. If you go further back in history, Truman, Hoover, Garfield also were left-handed. There also seems to be a wage difference between left and right-handed people. In the 2006 paper, Handedness and Earnings, it was found that left-handed college graduates went on to earn 15% more than right-handed college graduates. However, in the 2014 paper, The Wages of Sinistrality, Handedness, Brain Structure and Human Capital Accumulation, a Harvard professor found that lefties on average earn 10% less than right-handed people. So you might say that there's no difference between them. Still, if you are left-handed, you have an advantage when it comes to computer use. The most words that we write on the computer are being written with the left hand. On a keyboard, there are over 3,000 words typed solely with the left hand, whilst only around 300 are typed with the right hand alone. There are some weirdos in the world afraid of left-handed people or left-handedness. Sinistrophobia is defined as the fear of things at the left side or left-handed people. According to a neurologist's report, left-handed people seem to adjust with seeing underwater quicker. Still, a 1998 study, Left-handedness and Tongue Rolling Ability, yes, there is a study on this, I did not make this up, found that significantly fewer lefties could roll their tongues than righties. 62.8 were able to roll their tongues versus 74.8 righties. Your nails also grow faster on the dominant hand or even finger. The word left in English is from the Anglo-Saxon word lift, which means broken. Left-handedness is twice as common in twins than in the general population. Phrases in English suggest a negative view of left-handedness. For example, a left-handed compliment is actually an insult. A left-handed marriage is not a marriage, but an affair. And a left-handed wife is actually a mistress. Famous left-handed intellectuals include Albert Einstein, Benjamin Franklin, Isaac Newton, and Charles Darwin. Mothers who are over 40 at the time of a child's birth are 128 more likely to have a left-handed baby than a woman in her 20s. Also, stressed mothers are more likely to have a left-handed child. Research showing a link between trauma during gestation or during birth with an increased chance of being left-handed. Also, the word dexterity shows a right-handed bias. The term dexter means right and refers to being right-handed on both sides. And in closing, the Incas thought left-handers were capable of healing and that they possessed magical abilities. The North American Zuni tribe believed that left-handedness signified good luck. So, if you're left-handed, I wish you good luck in this discriminating world of left, right, ambidextrous people. Please use your right or left hand to give a like, to subscribe, share this video, and write down your thoughts with your left hand or with your right hand regarding being a lefty or a righty. Was it good for you, or you don't feel special at all? That's all for today. I'm Alex, and until next time, write your hand with the wrong hand and see what happens